Welcome to Bridge by Words, the podcast where aspiring leaders such as yourself connect with experienced politicians, gaining insights and inspiration for your own political journeys. And today, I'm very fortunate enough to sit down with Rachel Westaway, the lower house member for Prahran in the state of Victoria. And I think it's Legislative Assembly.
That's correct.
Yeah, there we go. First time I got that one right. So, thank you for being here, Rachel Westaway.
You're absolutely welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
So at the beginning, I try to start a bit soft and fluffy. Did you want to take a minute to brag about the area you represent?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I say I represent one of the best parts of Melbourne? I have the smallest electorate in Victoria. It's 11 square kilometres, and many people from around the world, around Australia, would know my area. So it covers one end of Chapel Street to the other. The suburbs that I cover are all of South Yarra, all of Prahran, all of Windsor, some of St Kilda, some of St Kilda East, and a little bit of South Bank and a street in Armidale. There is a lot of hospitality in my area. It's a densely populated area. I represent about 56,000 constituents, and it's a very diverse area. It has a lot of public housing. It's got a lot of apartment living, and it's also got some really big, beautiful homes as well. So it's when you've got that sort of diversity, it means you are absolutely kept on your toes, because the issues that arise are not just, my next door neighbours are building a mega mansion and we don't like it. It's also about people who are in public housing who are very vulnerable and that need a lot of help. And we're currently dealing with fire bombings on Chapel Street. We're currently dealing with homelessness. My small businesses are facing some of the toughest times they've ever faced. And these are some of the issues. My local primary schools aren't being funded. We've got a lot of issues in the state of Victoria, and they very much resonate in my very densely populated small electorate.
So you describe yourself as having tiger parents and being an only child. What values from your upbringing have stayed with you most strongly?
Certainly as an only child, you learn to be very resilient and independent. And all those people out there that say that only children are spoilt rotten, I think there are two ends of the spectrum on that one. I think that certainly as you get older and you're dealing with parents that are aging, it's only you that's dealing with it. So the pressures are very much there. But also it means that you've only got one kid to look after. And so I was very fortunate. I went to a state primary school, but my parents sacrificed a lot. My dad worked two jobs, one as a finance person, and then he also worked at a golf club. And my mum was a secretary at Monash University to get me through independent school, because that was their choice for me. So, and we travelled quite a bit. My dad worked for TAA and Australian Airlines and Qantas, and so he had cheap travel, and his parents are Thai Chinese, and so we used to travel to Thailand quite a bit. And so, there's pros and cons of being an only child, but I guess I face both the pros and cons of that. And growing up as someone from a mixed background was really interesting. So that very much defined me. I grew up or was born in Noble Park, Springvale, sort of like Cabramatta in New South Wales, a very Asian demographic. But back when I was growing up, there weren't any Asians around. So
really? It would have been almost country sort of thing.
It was Market Gardens. Market Gardens around there and in Dingley, where we subsequently moved to. And I was the only Asian kid in my school. And so that makes you resilient, but it also made me realise that multiculturalism is a good thing. You could either grasp it and celebrate it, or you could run away and hide from it and try and blend in. I did a little bit of both, and I think as you get a bit older, you learn to appreciate diversity, particularly if that's where you come from. And so it's been a theme that's run through my career and even just my personal life, about promoting multiculturalism and supporting people from diverse backgrounds.
Because you have one of those shadow ministries as well, don't you, for that?
I have, well, we do, but I'm Shadow Assistant Minister for hospitality, for tourism, for events for major events. I've got a great portfolio.
Yeah, that's always the fun one for Melbourne. It's the place to do it,
And Shadow Assistant Minister to the Leader of the Opposition, and for Melbourne more broadly. Yeah. So it's a wonderful opportunity to advocate for the things that I truly believe in. And it's great because those portfolios represent the seat of Prahran in many respects.
Oh, yeah. Everything's just here and all the, in Europe, you bought the F1 and all that.
Indeed. Albert Park Lake?
Yeah. So I guess, I should have said that. it's not a racetrack all year round.
No.
I guess while we're roughly on the topic, what's some of the realities of, being shadow ministers for these things?
Well, I'm a shadow assistant minister, so I assist my shadow minister. The reality of that is it takes up a little bit more time. But as I said before, it was selected for me, in my view, because it really is very relevant to the area in which I live, because it's such a diverse area. So it means that I have the opportunity to promote my small businesses and hospitality venues, and more than just as a state MP looking after constituents. So in state government, people, it's the individuals that vote, but not the businesses. But I still have an opportunity to promote our businesses and look at the opportunities that will enhance how they do business. And at the moment, times are pretty tough in Victoria, and doing business is really difficult. Fit outs are hard. There's a hell of a lot of red tape. We've got payroll tax related issues, and many of them are coming to me in this role and saying to me, you need to help us. When legislative changes go through Parliament, we need you as a voice. And so that's where I get to help, and that's what I really enjoy. And I know that the more vibrant my community is, the more successful it is, the more it has the ability to employ young people who live in my area, and that's a really good thing.
Okay, so it's a combination of there'll be research done in all of Victoria for that ministry as well, and then are you like an extra point of contact or another? So I assume the shadow minister would get all this information about a certain thing and about a research of that topic, and then they want to advise the Jess Wilson, for example, on this, and you as the assistant, you also are another point of view. So it's not
to a certain degree.
How does that work? You guys sit down and talk about things. We're in opposition.
Yeah.
But you guys are still in this position to come up with an alternative.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So there is all this pressure testing and cooking going on where you guys all sort of actually talk about it, because the Liberal Party is pretty diverse across Victoria. And I think that's a benefit in a sense, or any government anyway. Mm-hmm. It's good to have a diverse background. So, that's what I wanted to talk about. Is it what's the meetings like, I guess? Or am I prying too much?
No, not at all. Ask away.
Yeah.
We're in opposition. So when you're in opposition, you don't have access to the departments and all their research, but we're there to support. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in hospitality, to work out what's going well and what isn't going well, understanding what the legislation is, looking at any type of revision to legislation or amendments to it, and whether they work for the industry that we're representing. And our job is to reach out to those groups, and those groups often reach out to us as well.
Yeah.
And
the community lobby groups and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. Or small businesses, or some of our restaurants in my local area will reach out to me. And if it's a big thing, so often restaurants are owned by chains. So I'm not talking about franchises, but there might be one particular person who owns quite a lot of well-known restaurants or pubs. Yeah. And says, look, we've got real concerns about X, Y, and Z. Can you assist us in that? And they may have a relationship with me. And so I'll look at what I can do to support them, but I will also inform the shadow minister in regards to that, so that
and then it's their role to bring it up to
both of us will do it. And it depends. If it's pertinent and particular to my local area, then they might say, look, let me give you some more details on that. I can assist in this way. Or I might bring them out and meet with the relevant stakeholders. Other times I'll do it myself, but I'll speak to them about which way we can go and gain that experience and as well. So I have the opportunity to learn, but to ensure that whoever our stakeholders are that are coming to me in the different portfolios that I represent have access to both the shadow minister and the shadow assistant minister.
Yeah. Okay. So it's you don't have all the information from the government, so Correct. You'll get some, but not enough, I guess. And then from there, it's more of a grassroots take on it. And then there'd be probably not think tank or anything, but there'll be consultancy firms or something that you guys maybe get advice from.
Nope.
Nothing like that. It's all grassroots.
Not. We are
Just
in opposition. We have in my electorate office, we're allocated 2.5 full-time staff. Okay. And that is it.
2 adults and a 10-year-old.
Sort of.
Yeah. Okay.
Not quite the 10-year-old. We don't use slave labour or child labour. But yes, so sometimes I have one full-time staff member, and then we split other roles according to how we need it as well. And we can bring in casuals and utilise some of our budget for that.
2.5 people's worth of hours.
Indeed, per week. So that's not a lot for 56,000 constituents in an issues-rich area that represents so much of what I mentioned before, hospitality, major events, crime, roads, education. I have the Alfred Hospital in my electorate, so health. Yep. It is a very issues-rich, diverse community, and I have 2.5 staff members that work with me to do that, and I do not have a budget to access consultants or anyone like that. So
I was curious about that, how it all works.
It is, and I think people who haven't been in politics in these sorts of roles right at the pointy end don't realise that it is near impossible to get back to somebody instantaneously because we just don't have the resources at our hands. But we do our very best to get back within the week.
I think we saw before you were sending a letter to a Greek constituent.
Indeed, absolutely.
Yeah, stuff like that.
In Greek.
No, it's good. Yeah, in Greek too. All right, well, we'll rewind a bit. We'll go back. So talking about the migrant and being multi-race and all that and some of the difficulties and challenges or benefits that even come from it. So your grandparents fled communist China and rebuilt their lives in Thailand. And then your father arrived in Australia alone as a teenager. Fuck, that would be scary. Sorry for swearing, but yeah, right.
16 years of age.
Yeah, right.
You know, I look at that and I just think at a time when the White Australia policy had just ended, and it would have been really difficult. So
because there still would have been some of that residual, I guess,
there's still that feeling in the community in some parts. But I'm really proud of my dad for being a young boy who had the gumption to do that and the guts to do it. And it would have been very lonely. And back in those days, there weren't even just making an international telephone call to your family back in Thailand. I remember back when I was a little girl, you would have to book it through telecom in those days. And
like a time slot.
Yeah, you'd have to book the call. It wasn't like we didn't have mobiles in those days. So it would have been very, very difficult and enormously expensive. It wasn't cheap phone calls like we had now, but what would have probably been equivalent to hundreds of dollars for a phone call. And airfares were very, very expensive. So you didn't get on a plane every school holidays to go back to your family. You stayed here. And that was back in a time when I speak to Dad, and I remember even growing up, when Dad eventually worked for an airline and we could travel and we could go back to Thailand, he'd, back in those days you were allowed to, but he'd bring back herbs and spices and curry paste and things like that, but you couldn't buy that in Australia. And
so you'd have to like wait and then like try to
bring some back and he'd be able to
actually have a taste of the culture.
He'd bring back food he loved, and unless we went to Queensland, there weren't any mangoes around, and there sure as hell wasn't coriander, the things that are the essence of Thai food. And it was really different in those days.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, things they're like, okay.
You take for granted now.
Yeah. So what impact did some of those stories have on you in the way you see opportunity and responsibility?
That there are many great things about multiculturalism and different cultures, and that we have to celebrate those and encourage it and see the positives in it, and that people from overseas, it takes a lot of guts to go to another country to migrate, whether it be for humanitarian reasons or whether you're coming to work. It takes a hell of a lot of guts, and there is a resilience in a lot of those people that needs to be celebrated and identified and spoken about, and that's a positive. And at a time when we are hearing a lot more about One Nation and monoculture, it saddens me because I think there are really good things that come out of diversity and multiculturalism.
No, preach, sister. My wife, she's from Ecuador, so it's, I get you. I know what you mean. It's very fearful, very brave, and anyway. I can't wait to tell our kids about that. Your mum's brave, all right? Don't give her any shit.
Well, it was my dad.
Yeah,
it was my dad and this is the other really interesting thing. I often laugh with some of my girlfriends that are from mixed backgrounds that are Asian, and there is often an attitude that it's the Asian wife and the Anglo dad, and it's actually in my parents' instance. It's the opposite. And that was very unusual. And there was a lot of racism from both sides. My dad's family didn't want him marrying a white lady, woman, an Anglo woman who, were considered with very conservative Asian families to be a bit too fast and wouldn't have the same values. And whoever's seen the Joy Luck Club, it's a little bit true. That's how it was. And then my mum's family were also very nervous about her marrying somebody from an Asian background.
All right. Yeah, things you hope don't happen today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But now we look in the street and there are so many mixed couples. It's not weird.
No, it's not. I think it's normal, you know, like, and it reflects in our football team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful and I love it. And I look at my own 3 kids and I just think diversity is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm getting at is, was it your mum that would say to you, look, don't give your dad any shit. He's been through a lot to come here to Australia, and let's show some respect. And that's what I was getting at. That would be my position. If my kids tried to give my mum, my wife attitude, I'd be like, oi.
Yeah.
She's been through a lot to get here.
There is absolutely that, but there was also, they went through a lot to be together.
Yeah, true.
And so they had a lot to prove that they could actually do it, that they could be successful. My dad's family wanted him to come back to Thailand and not get married and to a white woman. And so they had a lot to prove, which meant, just like the Joy Luck Club, if you look at that, read that book or that movie, it was pitting cousins against cousins and making certain that you had the child that was excelling the most or played the piano or the violin.
Just
and so
competition,
so that's why I laugh sometimes when I say, you know, tiger parents. And they were very conservative. They didn't believe in sex before marriage, which, you know, it blows my mind. But they were very conservative, and and those sorts of values were pushed onto me, and it's something that perhaps I didn't really. I used to push back on, and I didn't appreciate, but I understood where they came from, because they were conservative and they just wanted to try and do everything by the book, and that's hard when you've got mixed cultures. And my mum tried to toe the line with my father and in how she brought me up, because that was something that was important for her to just be seen to be supporting his family's values as well.
Yeah. But no, it's wholesome. I like, but the blend, that's what Australia is. Yeah. So before politics, you worked in business, marketing, SBS, immigration matters, and FOI reviews. At what point did you move from being interested in public issues to wanting to directly be involved and resolve or represent a community? Yeah.
I've always been involved in public issues to a certain degree. After university, my first job was at Cadbury Schweppes in the graduate program there, and I was a brand manager in Cadbury. My greatest claim to fame, actually, and the thing that gets me the most amount of applaud is the fact that I developed giant caramello koala bear. And so when you are in marketing roles, and true, very disciplined marketing roles, where you are looking at the consumer, what motivates them, what products you need to develop in order to get them to purchase them, you are always thinking about what makes up Australia and what people like and what they don't like, looking at advertising campaigns, choosing the talent. Back in those days, it was all about blonde-haired, fair-skinned people with white teeth eating a cherry ripe. It was sort of, it was very, it was how you thought about things. Then I went to work at Crayola for a period of time, the children's product, and we imported product in from the United States, and we looked at taking, because we couldn't afford to make our own advertising campaigns. I remember seeing Black Americans and kids that were in advertising. I used to think, oh, will that suit the Australian market if we put a television commercial on? And so I was always thinking in that space about what resonates, what doesn't, and why doesn't it? But coming from a multicultural background, I thought it was fantastic that we had diversity on our screens. And when you look at people in my age category in their 50s who have seen television develop from getting your black and white TV and your video recorders to now colour TV to digital to all of that sort of stuff, and we're a global economy now and we work in that space. Things have shifted substantially, and how we see the world and what we're influenced by is, I think we're much more open to seeing a mixture of people on the screen and how we work with things. But getting back to your point on what got me into public life, I started down that space, and then I headed up marketing for the Age newspaper. Again, working with Victorians and what worked for them, what didn't, what they liked in a newspaper, what they were wanting to read, what sold the front page of the newspaper. And then after SBS, the Age, I went to work for SBS, and that really captured and piqued my interest in multiculturalism more than anything else.
Because it's the multicultural channel.
Absolutely. Back in the day before it even had ads. And It had a radio station, which was really grassroots, 62 different languages that represented, so 62 different cultures. And even though we had the Croatians and the Serbians sitting next to each other and there was a war going on, in Australia it was really beautiful. Everyone got on really well within SBS. It was a melting pot of cultures, and it made me think, wow, this is the space I love and I want to be in, and I feel really comfortable with that space and in that space. And in that role, I was asked to go on more multicultural boards and be involved in the community, and I loved it. But it was in the 90s, and it was a time when One Nation was becoming more prevalent. There was a real conversation happening, and I was concerned about the messaging coming from One Nation. And I thought, wow, as somebody that looks a bit different from a multicultural background, I didn't have kids in those days, but it just worried me. And I remember my dad being verbally attacked on a tram in Melbourne and being told to go back to his own country. And it's just like, he's serious. Like, my dad has contributed so much. He's worked 2 jobs. He's done all these fantastic things. That's not fair, and that's not the Australia that I want to live in. And so it started to make me think, I think I want to get more involved in politics. And I'd moved to Sydney, and I thought, how do you branch out and meet people? This is before Tinder and all of those sorts of meeting apps.
Yeah.
And I was particularly interested in politics, and as I said, One Nation was a problem for me. So I thought, I'm going to get involved in the Liberal Party. Why the Liberal Party and not Labor?
Yeah, that was one of my questions a bit later on, I guess.
It was, and the Greens went around in those days. There was this exhibition, for want of a better term, and there were and all these
while you were up in
parties.
Sydney.
The Democrats were there, Labor was there, Libs were there, and you could go around and interview people and meet them from all the different political parties.
Like a career expo or something.
Exactly, precisely, just like that. And I thought, I'm just going to go along and have a look at this. And I met people from the Liberal Party, and it resonated with me because I'm economically conservative. I think that there should be minimal regulation. I do believe that the more people are encouraged to work and be successful, the more they generate a strong community and they can employ people. And then those that are employed have choice and become more affluent, and it's a cyclical
it becomes
thing.
More stable. They can stay, put their roots up, and then it's people being able to put their roots down. That's what builds community.
Indeed. But there are things in the Labor Party that resonate with me. My father was a member of the union movement. And the unions are fantastic for people that perhaps are more vulnerable or English isn't their first language. When there is an issue, they can support them. So I always then started to think, I'm probably a very progressive Liberal, and it worked well for me. So I joined the Liberal Party, and I was asked, I got to meet Philip Ruddock, the then the immigration minister, and he asked me to chair one of his multicultural strategy groups. And then I put my hand up to run in New South Wales, and I was pre-selected on a ticket for the upper house in New South Wales in a position that had been winnable in the past with landslides, but I knew it wasn't going to be winnable. But it was a great opportunity just to
put the effort in,
and try and
learn something from it.
And one of my jobs was to work with our multicultural communities and also do fundraising. So I did that, and they knew that I had a background working at SBS, so they knew I worked with the multicultural media. So that was very helpful in that election. And
it's like your resume was primed for it.
It was. And so it worked quite well there. And so that really piqued my interest in getting involved at a community level. Then I ran, so I didn't win. Then I thought, I'm going to put my hand up for local government. And I lived in Pyrmont in Sydney, and I thought I was asked if I'd run second on the Liberal ticket for Sydney City Council. And Lucy Turnbull, I think, was the Lord Mayor at the time, and Clover Moore was around, and
they're kicking now, I think. They're in at the moment, aren't they?
And I thought, and it was the first time the Libs had run a Liberal ticket in Sydney City Council. And so I said, I'll go second on the ticket. Yeah. We got the first up, but not the second up. And
but still, you would have learnt a lot.
I learnt heaps because, again, it was working at a grassroots level. And I had worked at the National Trust as Director of Marketing in one of my jobs, and we were dealing with Pyrmont, which is very inner city around Darling Harbour, and I was really interested in protecting the heritage curtilage around Darling Harbour and Balmain and inner city Sydney. I thought it was really important, and they're local government related issues. So again, I was doing stuff at a grassroots level, and so that started to get me even more involved. Eventually, I moved back to Melbourne, but I retained my interest and association with the Liberal Party. But I had been I'd applied for a job as a tribunal member at a Commonwealth level with the Migration Review Tribunal, which is a tribunal at a federal level that reviews visa decisions. So anybody who applies for a visa and it's been either refused or cancelled and they are onshore have the ability to
this is like the appeal,
decision. It's sort of semi-judicial. And I was actually appointed to that tribunal in a part-time capacity, and then I was cross-appointed to the Refugee Review Tribunal, and then those two merged. And I pretty much worked for 25 years in that space as a statutory appointment. So I needed to, in those sorts of roles, you need to be very careful about being sent to be one side or the other. So I didn't get involved in politics as much. I mean, it's obviously compulsory to vote.
Put that on the back burner for a bit.
And so I put that on the back burner. But I got to a point, and I was then appointed to the Administrative Appeals Tribunal because many of the federal tribunals or Commonwealth tribunals merged, and so I was then appointed to the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, and decided not to seek reappointment at a time when there were a lot of changes. And I thought I might try and do some more community work and hang out with my kids a bit more and get a bit more involved in politics because things were changing in Victoria, and I felt that there was a real opportunity in my local area to do a lot more. Yeah, and I thought I'd do that in a voluntary capacity. And so I retired, and my girlfriends went, "You're always busy. You'll never retire." And I went, "No, I'm definitely going to retire." So one of my girlfriends and I went to Bali for a couple of weeks on a holiday.
And you lost a bet and you had to run?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, really?
No. The seat that I'm in has been a green seat for 11 years.
Was curious about that. Like, what's the go?
Yeah.
And so the Greens guy, and there was some drama, and then
there was a drama.
He had to resign.
Google the drama. I won't talk about it on here, but there was a drama with him, and basically was chuffed out of the Greens. Then he stayed on as an independent for a few weeks, and then he resigned. So I was getting phone calls in Bali, and people were saying, "Why don't you consider running? It's your local area." Now, remember, 11 years as a green seat. So hard for us to win. But for the first time in my life, I had the ability to actually put my hand up and put everything I possibly could into it. I was at a stage in my life where I had the time and the financial means. And politics is an expensive business, and you've got to throw everything at it. You need to have some kind of
cushioning to sort of support yourself during
it. To do it well. Yeah. And you've got to go in with time and the ability to do it. So I thought I'll run for preselection. There was a preselection, and I was fortunate enough to win that preselection to represent the party. And then the by-election occurred in February of 2025. So, and I won it. And it was a very unusual by-election though.
Yeah. Going back, what's the pre-selection stuff like? What's that like internally? Or is that too much behind the
No, I'm happy to talk about it. It's we live in a democracy and everything should be transparent. So
preach.
In the Liberal Party, so Labor's different. And I can't talk about Labor, and they have their own process to work on. But when an opportunity arises or an election comes up or there's a by-election, if you're a Liberal Party member, you can nominate. You can put your hand up and say, "I would like to run for preselection. I'd like to be considered to be the candidate for this area." Yeah. And then you need to have a whole lot of checks done to determine if you're a fit.
Yeah, you don't want to end up
being dodgy.
Yeah. There's a few out. Not Liberal, but you know what I mean? There's some dramas.
Well, always. Like there are lots of people have skeletons in their closet. Lots of people don't realise what might be a skeleton and what might not be a skeleton.
That's true. On an electoral political front too.
Yeah, absolutely. And what might be damaging. So
like what might get you points with the boys at the pub probably won't.
Indeed. Absolutely. Or dodgy photos of you doing dodgy things. Like it's just, or jokes that you may not, look at Prince Harry and his Nazi dress up. Like that sort of stuff can come out. You've got to be careful. So So having been a tribunal member for many years, so in serious type jobs, I was pretty careful about the sort of stuff that I did, and certainly said to my 3 teenage children, behave yourselves.
Yeah, because it can come back.
Everything can come back to you. Be careful what you put online. So coming back to my very conservative upbringing, that was probably a really good learning curve and helpful for me.
Yeah.
And so
run a tight ship. Yeah,
absolutely. So so what you do is you put your hand up for that, and then you are given a list of all the members in your local area, the Liberal Party members in your local area that are signed up, paid up Liberal Party members.
Ah, okay.
And so they have the opportunity to vote for you. And generally it's about 60%. You might make up of the people that vote for you, 60% will come from your local area, and then another 40% will be a draw from people who are from across the state that are Liberal Party members that have been voted as state council delegates that can vote for you. So then there's a draw, and the other 40% are made up of that. So in my area, it's perhaps 200 people that.
So that's like the initial door knocking, almost, sort of having to get to know those people.
So I had to get to know them. You do coffees with them, you ring them, you send them brochures on yourself. You get references from people, your local community that know the work that you do. That it's like your resume. You've got to put it out there, because most people wouldn't, even if they're a member of a club, you wouldn't know everybody in that club, and they wouldn't know you. So it's really important that they feel confident, because they're Liberals and they've put their money where their mouth is and they've signed up members, that they want to know that whoever represents them has the best chance of winning. And so that's what happens. And so then the actual day of the preselection is nerve-wracking. You all
gather in a room or something? Or?
You all gather in a room. And mine was at the Como Hotel on Chapel Street. And you go in first, and or whatever candidates are there, one will go in by themselves and they have to give a speech, and then there are questions, and then the next person comes in, and that's how it works, and then you do another speech and more questions. So it was two lots of speeches and 2 lots of questions, and then they vote, and the results are found out on the day as to who will win and who doesn't.
Wow. So it's sort of like solved there in the room, or is it?
Solved there in the room.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
And then the next challenge? The
next challenge is, wow, you've actually made it as a candidate, and then you're dragged aside, and you have and there'll be a media release on you, and they'll announce it publicly that you're the candidate for, in my instance, the by-election. And then you hit the ground running, and you are out door knocking. You're doing listening posts. A listening post is where you stand on a corner and you hand out information on yourself or what you want to do for your local area.
Standing next to one of the boards and.
Yep, absolutely. And off you go. And in a by-election, it's different, because you are not going to a major election where there is money to put forward policies.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Yeah.
So
what's the backing from the party difference between a by?
You're not coming up with major policies, because there isn't a pool of funds that are there that you can actually say, I will build this, I will do this, I will fund this, because you're halfway through a term.
Yeah.
So it's really about your values and what resonates with people. And that's really where we stood. And I won, and I was very fortunate. But I was saying before that the by-election was a really interesting one, because Labor didn't run a candidate. Tony Lupton was the former Labor member in our area, and he ran as an independent, and then we had the Greens. And it's often a 3-cornered contest, but in more recent times, the Greens and the Libs have been the ones that have been head-to-head, and Labor have always preferenced the Greens and vice versa. But in this particular instance, Tony Lupton and our values aligned. And as I mentioned in the earlier part of this discussion, I'm a very progressive Liberal and pro-multiculturalism at a time when there were a lot of issues in regards to protests, Palestine, and I've got a seat that's quite a strong Jewish seat as well. And so he spoke to me about preferences and where he would put his preferences,
or he'd recommend people voting for him.
Yeah. So a preference is really just when you get your how to vote, and on election day, you'll know the numbers of where they are. Now, that is not something that you have to follow. That is a choice.
I just wanted to clarify that, because some people probably get misconceptions.
They absolutely
They think, if I vote for this person, it's going to go to you or whatever, and then then some people don't want to vote that way because the way the preferences are. It's just like a recommendation.
It is only a recommendation. In the past, in other states, it can absolutely. It used to be like that. So that's why people get confused. But it's absolutely not like that. It's only a recommendation. And
there we go. Educational. Beautiful.
Yeah, historically, Labor. Historically, you would see Labor preferences. Maybe 80% go to the Greens, 20% might go to the Libs in this seat. When Tony ran and he made his recommendation of preferences and I was above the Greens, I think it was around about 64% went to me. That in essence got me across the line because I won. I was the first. So I basically won primaries by one vote. Yeah. One vote. And then the preferences made the difference. And we are in a preferential voting system. And so that's what we've got to deal with in a seat like this.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a good thing.
It is. I mean, some people don't like it because they go, I got my second candidate up and I don't really want that. But that's how it works. Better your second than your third.
Yeah, I'd rather that. Because I know like there's issues in the UK where some people don't even vote because they don't think their opinion's going to be heard. You know, because anyway, I love Australia's preferential. That's just me. That's me loving Australia.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Thank you.
No, you're right. You're right. Thank you, editor. Me. So you mentioned in your inaugural speech about the broader shifts towards the political right around the world. What do you think established political leaders are missing when ordinary people say they want change?
It's grassroots campaigning. It's knowing your local area because at the end of the day, I don't represent necessarily all of Victoria. First and foremost, I represent the people of Prahran and they want to know what type of member I am. So I think you need to be at a grassroots level, listening to people and hearing what the issues are. And then having policies that actually address those specific issues. And where we've gone at a globally, I think, and a move to the right is people feeling disenfranchised, not having their voices heard, feeling like they're doing it really tough economically. We've seen a real shift with housing-related issues, with cost of living across the world. And people are going, wow, I can, my parents used to have choice. If they wanted to work two jobs, they could work two jobs. Now I look at some of these kids who can't even get jobs. That's the hard thing. I was talking to somebody the other day who worked at KPMG and their current flatmate works at Deloitte. Between them, they've got 60 grand in the bank and they want to move into this local area in Prahran in a city. Their budget is $800 a week rent and they have been for months queuing up trying to rent somewhere and they can't get an apartment. That blows me away. Now that's at a small level. But this is something that's being felt globally, that people are doing it tough, that they don't have choice. And in some instances, their irritation has come from immigration and more open borders in certain countries and looking for areas to blame. And so a lot of discussion has been around immigration. And I can't talk about it too much because I'm a state member of Parliament. But you asked me it's not a state issue, but it's people are looking for people to blame on a range of different issues and they haven't found results with their political representatives. And so that's what is hurting and what is making people go, you know what, this is a protest vote. I'm absolutely sick of it. And I see that in the state of Victoria because we're hearing a lot about One Nation even running in Victoria at a state level, but we don't know what their policies are. And I don't have a candidate in my area, but people are still, even on social media, they're talking about One Nation. So that demonstrates to me that in that particular instance, this is a protest vote. This is about people feeling disenfranchised and not listened to. So I do everything in my power, even though I'm in opposition, to make certain that I have results in my local area. And I think it's resonating. Certainly when I door knock, it's resonating. But I'll give you an example. We have a local primary school at the very end of my electorate on the corner of Chapel Street and Brighton Road, which turns into Nepean Highway or St Kilda Road. And it is at St Kilda Primary School. Now they had a community hall or their assembly hall that was pulled down in some renovations and Labor have been in power and they promised under their watch they would rebuild that hall after they pulled it down. Never got rebuilt. So the kids, it's quite a mixed demographic. A lot of their kids live in in housing or in public housing or in apartments, they sit out on the asphalt for their assemblies. That's if the weather's okay. If the weather's not okay, they don't have an assembly.
Yeah,
and
wow.
this has been going on for years. So I've been advocating for this community hall, and our side made the first election commitment, which demonstrates how important the seat of Prahran is. And we said, we'll give you $12 million towards a community hall. This was such a win for them. They have been doing so much lobbying.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I win my seat and we get into government, we're able to deliver that. And all of a sudden, finally, after years and years and years, Labor come to the party and go, we'll match it. We'll deliver a community hall. Now, some might say eye rolling exercise, or Labor have done this and they're trying to play catch up. Yes, to a certain degree. But my community wins at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was going to say, does that still count as a win?
Absolutely it does.
I've asked Greens people before and they're like, well, at least we've pushed Labor or the governing party
Absolutely.
to do something. Yeah.
And that is the job, and that's my point. That's the job of a good local member. Even if you're in opposition, if you can bring those that are in power to the party and you have a good working relationship with them and you are respectful and you can actually get a win for your community, that's why I got into politics. It's to actually make my area better. I've lived in this seat for 25 years. I have 3 kids that have gone to local schools in the area. I still have a significant mortgage on a townhouse in my area. So I have an investment. I've got skin in the game. And if my local area wins, then we all win. And if that is my legacy, that's a great thing.
Yeah. That's what you should be doing. Yeah, that's good.
That's my job.
So I guess I wanted to touch base. So Pauline Hanson round 2, electorate boogaloo sort of thing. We could probably, what does Australia often talks about multiculturalism. What does successful multiculturalism actually look like in practice?
I don't think it's about monoculture.
Yeah. Monoculture, no. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
absolutely not. It's about, and again, I have to be careful because I'm a state MP, so I'm
understand
not
it's like a
well versed in
but
the space of discussions here. But as somebody who's worked in the multicultural space for a long period of time, somebody whose family has contributed, that have abided by the law, that have worked really hard, that have that my friends are from so many diverse backgrounds, and we all live harmoniously. That's what it's about. It is about having a humanitarian intake of refugees as well as having a skilled intake and a family intake or partner visas. I think we're still the lucky country. I still think we have capacity to be able to be kind and bring people into this country.
Yeah.
I think the intakes need to be considered depending on our needs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there should be integration and that should be supported. And that doesn't mean monoculture. That just means respect for the laws of this country.
Yep.
This means celebrating diversity and not bringing in international conflicts.
Yep.
Remember when I said I worked for SBS and the Croatians and the Serbians sat next to each other during a time of crisis and they got on really well?
Yeah.
That's what I expect. You come to this country and you don't bring international conflict into it. And it's been highlighted in my local area because there are many Palestinians that are doing it really tough, but there are many Jewish people that are doing it tough. Mm-hmm. And that has been highlighted here with anti-Semitic stickers in my local area because we have a lot of Jewish people.
Yeah.
I don't tolerate it and I call it out. It's not about taking a side. It's just about saying, do not bring down any part of my community.
Yeah. Hate in any form to anyone isn't necessary.
Absolutely.
It's not required.
Same with my LGBTQI plus community.
Yeah.
If you allow racism or being homophobic or targeting any diverse community, you give permission for one community to be targeted, you give permission for every community to be targeted. And that is what I stand for, not allowing that to happen.
Yeah. I like that you've used the word integration. I think that's what we should be pushing a bit more because One Nation's all about this assimilation, or at least their followers are. And then that just seems to, I don't like that assimilation. It means you have to sort of brush aside where you've come from and all your background and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, integrating still means you are important from your memories, your culture, your background. That can be a part of Australia. And then, I don't know, you've touched on points I've said before where it's like a respect for the common law and what keeps our society together.
Absolutely.
But then everything else, Bring your food, bring your culture,
I have, there's been this awful war going on with Ukraine and Russia. And I've got a lot of Russians in my community and Ukrainians. but I haven't seen the same issues inflated in my local community with Ukrainians and Russians that I've seen with Palestine and Israel. And so it's important that governments of all shapes and sizes stomp that out. Yeah. It's not about taking a side. It's just saying we will not have a group in our community targeted. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Sorry for a heavy topic, but it's a good one. It's a necessary discussion to have.
Yeah.
So I guess final question, and I'll let you go. I appreciate your time. If you could, time machine, go back in time to Bali where your girlfriend bet that you should run, that first moment where you sort of considered running, or I guess probably earlier than that, back in Sydney. If you go back the first time you considered entering politics, what one piece of advice would you give yourself and why?
It was the perfect timing for me. There's no advice. It's follow your gut. If you believe in something and whatever party it is, if you truly believe in certain values and you have the time, the capacity to be involved, then do it. But go in with your eyes wide open. Know that you've got to have a thick skin. You can't be all things to everyone if you are not an independent. But as an independent or the smaller parties, they can't deliver. So that's why I chose the larger party to be involved in. That's values and ideology predominantly sat with mine. Again, you can't be all things to everybody as a major party, but there are values that can predominantly align. So choose wisely as to the party you're involved in. Back your seat and know your seat really well. You've got to be part of the community. I am not an advocate for people just saying, I want to be a politician and I'm going to run anywhere. And there are lots of politicians out there that don't live in their electorate. And I find that extraordinary. I do not know how you could represent.
I find that wild that they allow that in Victoria.
I think it's bizarre.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I know pretty much every street. I know the issues. I know the parents that were the parents that my kids went to school with. I know the shopkeepers because I have shopped here for a quarter of a century. So they feel comfortable having me in their shop or putting a poster up. And that's really important. So represent the area in which you live that you know really well. Choose the party that you that works for you. Know that mainstream parties, as much as people hate hearing this, they can deliver, and the independents will really struggle. There are certainly times where they can, where it might be a conscience vote or you need to get people across the line. But at the moment, when you look at Victorian state politics in the lower house, Labor numbers in the chamber outweigh all of us together. So it's impossible to make change at a lower house level, and that's frustrating. So, but at the end of I look at it and I just think I'm very fortunate to have chosen the right time, the party that resonated with me, and in an issues-rich environment with issues that are important to me. Like I have to be able to speak passionately about the things that I believe in, and multiculturalism, housing, small business, hospitality, young people are all things that I feel passionately about.
Yeah. So have the values aligned, and it's okay to choose a party to be a part of and support you in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and as I said, I'm an advocate for the Liberal Party. I'm very proud to be a member of it. I know it won't be all things to everybody, but just be engaged in the political process. Know your local member. Know what they stand for, know who they are, and if they're a good local member, they should meet with you if you want to meet with them. My office door is always open, and I will meet with everyone in my community.
No, good. All right. No, thank you. I appreciate your time, Rachel. We'll cut there. Is there any? Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for yours.